John chapter 20, starting right at the beginning. It was the first day of the week, Sunday morning, quite early. Mary Magdalene came to the tomb. In fact, it was still dark. But she saw that the stone in the entryway had in fact been taken away. She ran, found Simon Peter, and the other disciple, the one called the beloved disciple. She said to them, "They've taken the Lord's body from the tomb. We do not know where they've laid it." So Peter and the beloved disciple, they went immediately towards the tomb, ran towards the tomb. Now, that other disciple was faster. He got there first. He stooped down and looked in. He saw the linen wrappings in which the body had been wrapped, just lying there. He didn't go in them. Peter, when he arrived, kept running right into the tomb. And he saw the linen wrappings lying there, and saw also that the face cloth, which had been wrapped around the head, wasn't just bundled up with everything else. It was lying folded in a place by itself. It was at this point that the beloved disciple, even though he'd arrived first at the tomb, came into the tomb second. And he saw and believed, but they still had not yet understood what the Scripture said, how he must rise again from the dead. And then the disciples went back to their homes. Now Mary also had come back. She stood outside the tomb weeping. And as she wept, she stooped and looked into the tomb, but she saw two angels dressed in white, one at the head and one at the feet, where the body of Jesus had been lying. And they said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping?" She said, "Because they have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him." Then she turned around, and she saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't recognize him. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom do you seek?" Now, at this point, she thought he must be the gardener. So she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him. I will take care of the body." And Jesus said to her, "Mary." And at this point, she turned, she looked at him, and she said, "Rabboni." That translates to "my teacher." Jesus said to her, "Stop clinging to me, for I have not yet ascended to the Father. But go to my brothers and sisters and say to them, I ascend to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." And so Mary Magdalene came and told the other disciples, "I have seen the Lord." And she relayed what he had said. You have to stand for this. What a dark time it was for the disciples. I mean, dark. They had believed that Jesus was Messiah. Now, the truth is, they didn't all agree on what that meant. Some people thought Messiah was going to be a mighty king who would lead a mighty victory over the Romans. Some people thought Messiah was to be a priest who would restore the temple. Some people thought Messiah would be a prophet. Some people thought he would lead a rebellion. There was a lot of disagreement on that. But they'd all kind of figured out that Jesus was Messiah. And so that was great. They were all like, Jesus is Messiah. They came into Jerusalem going, maybe this is it. This is the moment. They kept asking him, is this the moment when the kingdom will come in glory? And he says, why are you always asking this? What's with you on timetables? Only God knows. Just trust. They came into Jerusalem. Things looked pretty exciting. People were like cheering. Things looked good. But Jesus himself, as the week progressed, seemed to get sadder and sadder. They didn't understand this. He kept talking about things that they didn't want to hear. And then. Pilate was, for Pilate, he managed to get to one of these big festivals in basically a powder keg city. Jerusalem was a powder keg city. It still is today, I think, but it was a powder keg city back then. There were all these different Jewish factions. There was all of these, messianic pretenders. There was always the threat of revolt or riot, either religious riots among different groups or revolt against the Romans. There was this crazy group that we call the Zealots, but the Romans called them the Sicarii, who were basically assassins who would go around killing people with knives. And so it was a very tense time. And Pilate, Pilate's usual solution to this was to kill a bunch of people, but I think Pilate probably patted himself on the back when this was all over, because he managed to get through the weekend and this big holiday with all these people in Jerusalem. And he only had to kill 3 guys. Not bad for Pilate. But he understood that one of the 3 guys he killed, that people were thinking that this guy was Messiah. And that's why he killed him. Jesus was crucified for the crime of sedition against Rome, claiming to be King of the Jews. Now, when asked, Jesus always would kind of like, oh, but is this what other people are saying about it? He would never quite say it. He would show it, but he would never quite say it. But it didn't matter. They charged him with being King of the Jews, and he put that on a sign above his head when they crucified him. And in that way, you have to understand, and maybe in a way that Pilate himself didn't understand, but that would put an end to it right there. Because the king of Israel is always blessed of God. That's part of what it means to be king, the anointed one. Blessed of God. Blessed of God. Messiah means anointed one. Blessed of God. But it says in the scriptures, cursed is the one who is hung upon a tree. And so Pilate hangs Jesus on a tree, probably unaware of this Jewish teaching. But in this way, everyone who is Jewish understands what it means. If Jesus is hung upon the tree, then he is cursed of God, not blessed of God. He cannot be Messiah. And that puts an end to it. And so for the disciples, what an undoing. They spent all their time pinning their hopes on Jesus, and it's all falling apart. And they also discovered they are not the people they thought they were. Oh, they talked big. We will fight for you. We'll never leave you. We'll go with you to the bitter end. But when the moment came and the soldiers came to arrest Jesus, they were out of there. Peter insisted, I will never deny you, managed to do it 3 times that night. And so they were full of all of this grief and concern and rage and sorrow, and all of these things sort of mixed together and tangled together. And I can imagine Peter, when Mary came back talking about the body being gone, I imagine he got all angry and puffed up, I'll take care of this. Because by the way, that's what happens. If in a funeral, when we're preparing a funeral, if there's a family member who feels guilty because they haven't seen, mom or dad for a really long time, they're always the ones who are most insistent on how the funeral should go and everything should be just right. And so I imagine Peter is that way, running to John, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Only more confusion follows, because when they get there, it's not just that the body is gone, but the grave wrappings are still there. This is not a small undertaking. It's wrapped up. This is not like throwing off the covers and getting out of bed. It was wrapped up. And there was a lot of spices and aloe that got hastily thrown on. He wasn't fully prepared because they didn't have a lot of time, but they still, it was not a small thing to unwrap a body and remove it. You would carry the thing out, you wouldn't unwrap it. Can you imagine them looking at this, scratching their heads like, I do not understand this? And Mary, she's still in her place of sorrow and grief and tears, because for all of the talk about Jesus being Messiah, the one thing that Mary Magdalene knew for certain was she had been sick, really, really sick, and Jesus healed her. By the way, Mary Magdalene was never a prostitute, so just get that out of your head. But she was a woman who had been very sick, described as having a number of evil spirits that Jesus cast out. She was very sick. Jesus healed her. And she loved him. And he was gone. And so you can also kind of understand how when she comes back to the tomb and she's just weeping and there are angels. And, normally if you see an angel, you kind of think something's up. Right? and she doesn't seem to really, this doesn't seem to sink into her. In her grief, it's like, it doesn't, honestly, right? If there were angels, wouldn't you whip your phone up and try to take a picture? Post it on Facebook or something? I just saw an angel. No, actually, the truth is you'd forget and then go, I wish I'd taken a picture. But, it's like she doesn't catch this. She's so caught up in the grief and the sorrow, and she turns around and she practically bumps into Jesus standing there. Doesn't even recognize him until he calls her by name, and then she does, and you know what happens next? Oh, you're here. You're alive. You're here. and she gloms onto him, and I totally get that. She grabs onto him. I get that because in our lives, that's where we're at, right? I mean, just think about all the things that we hold on to in this world that are so important to us. We hold on to them. And we remember the good old days when you had to write letters and you couldn't Snapchat your friends and lick those stamps. We remember that stuff. Some of it fondly, some of it we're glad that's no longer the case. And by the way, there's going to be a generation, that generation is here right now, who someday will be saying to their children and grandchildren, when we were young, we carried our computers in our pockets. Trust me, that's coming. We had to type in the request. And our AIs didn't always understand what we were asking. But all of this stuff in our lives, we hold on to it. We want to hold on to it. And it's really troubling because one of the true rules of life is this: there's nothing you have that will not be taken away. Right? Eventually, your youth gets replaced by your not youth. Your health gets replaced by your not health. And you lose the people you love. Friendships come and go. And it's not even that sometimes we lose friends, but sometimes we just lose track over the years. And so we become, in some sense, very fearful about losing more, and we hold on to a lot of stuff. We hold on to a lot of things. We hold on tightly, almost desperately. We even hold on to some negative stuff, like we hold on to our hurt and our pain. Like if it goes away, or somehow we let it go, I don't know, we lose something. We hold on so tightly. And so we're really not any different than Mary, because our idea about heaven is always that somehow it's going to come back to us whole, and all this stuff that we've held on to our whole life is going to be there for us to hold on to again. We just get to hold on to it forever. And so it's weird for us. I mean, we understand Mary's response. She sees Jesus, and it's like hitting a reset button on a video game. We get to start this level over again. Hallelujah. And she grabs onto him, and he says, let go. Stop clinging. You got to let go. You don't get to hold on. This is not a reset. This is something brand new. This is something completely different. You see, that's the thing about resurrection. It is not a reset. It is not us holding on to the same things. In fact, resurrection necessitates letting go. Which I know seems weird, but it's nonetheless true. We've got to let go. If we don't, it's going to get ripped from our hands anyway. But if we let go, we find out that what's coming is more. Not the same old stuff held on to, but more. More of God's grace. More of God's mercy. More of God's love. More of God's power. Heaven is more, not what we have now forever. It is beyond what we have now. The stuff we have now we leave behind because of what's coming. Heaven is always an invitation to something greater. A greater love, a greater knowledge of who God is. Resurrection is not just getting it all back. In fact, we don't get it back. We get something new. And so this is one of those really hard lessons for us to understand, because we keep holding to things, and we hold on so tightly. But to understand that if we want eternal life, if we want new life, if we want resurrection, ultimately, we have to let go and discover what God has for us is more than we have ever imagined. This is what lies behind that deep and profound truth, that heart of Christian faith, when we say, Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Could you please stand and join in the prayer of response? Lord Jesus Christ, help me to relax my hands, white knuckle, and stiff fingered from clinging so tightly to all the things I have been afraid to lose. Help me to let go of everything old and to be taken hold of by all that is new. In your resurrection, let me know eternal life. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed. Amen. Depends on you. You got work to do.
Israel.